welcome back. And we're moving into our first conversation for today, where if you have particular financial goals that you want to set for 2018, we're going to get some great advice from the Executive Director of the Belize Credit Union League, Corine Fuller. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too. And I love that you come to talk about this very difficult topic with such a smile on your face.
That's because this is the best time to talk about it, you know.
I said that earlier. I think this is notoriously the Mogga season, which is the time where people are recovering financially from the money that they spent over Christmas. So thinking of extras is a hard thought to conjure up in January.
Yeah. That's why it is good to think about it. I think there are probably two types of persons in January. Those who did it right, and so they're not so stressed, and so they kind of want to validate, that they did the right thing by planning and making sure that they don't spend all the money on Christmas. And then, unfortunately, you have those people who really feel down in the dumps because they overdid it, they didn't plan, and they are ready to make a new start. January, you reassess, you make resolutions if that works for you. For some people, it really does work. And so this is a good time to talk about it and to see how we could progress.
So you're saying the pain of the pinch may give you the motivation that you need.
Yes, and motivation is the important thing. You need to be motivated. I think 2018 should be a good year.
Okay.
If we start on the right track.
Yes. And that's what I wanted to ask. How do you begin planning for the year?
Well, I think you have to recognize that there are some things will happen.
Yeah.
Things happen. It's important to plan because emergencies happen.
Yeah.
And on the PowerPoint, I think I have some emergencies that can happen.
Yep.
Now, nobody knows when emergencies, the word really suggests, nobody knows, when those things are going to happen, but things happen.
Yes.
Things like
and
people
you have
get
a
ill.
very important one to the top there. When you get sick or a family member gets sick unexpectedly.
Unexpectedly. Nobody plans to get ill, but it happens.
Yeah.
And one or all mightn't happen to you, but it does happen. You see that it happens.
Yeah.
People, there's death in the family. That expenses are associated with that. Nobody plans for these things.
Yeah.
You might get fired. Those things happen. Fires, things like that. Well, I didn't even put hurricanes up there because I was so fearful.
You don't want to jinx it. But
know.
hurricanes can really devastate if you have to build back.
Yes. Emergencies and car trouble.
See, I don't even think that's unexpected. I think you need to expect
like
one or two of those during the year.
You're right. You do your maintenance and thing on time, and that kind of reduces the chance.
Yeah.
But things happen, you know, and so there are emergencies that nobody plans for. Nobody plans for, but those things happen.
And on the flip side, there are some expenses that you can expect throughout the course of the year.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So we have things that your children are going back to school, Christmas, graduation, celebrations, like birthdays and anniversaries, things like that. You have vacation.
Yeah, Easter. Everybody tries to find money for Easter,
Mother's Day.
Everyone finds money.
Oh yeah, you do. Yeah. Mother's Day, Father's Day, 10th, 19th, all of those things are coming. So you can make plans for those. But the important thing is to look on the entire picture because you can't just focus on one and not think that not give thought to the other. So the planning means looking on the big picture and understanding what you make, what you have at your disposal, so that you could plan accordingly.
Now, there's a very common saying that Christmas finds its own money.
Yeah.
Right? I'm saying it in English. You should say it in Creole.
Yeah.
But it's because people access quick financing. We know back to school loans are very popular. So
Christmas loans.
As well. Easter loans. Summer vacation loans. And so it almost feels that people feel confident that perhaps as the year comes along, they'll be able to access one of these particular financial products.
Source, yeah. And that's true for some people, but not for everybody. because you never know when you will be denied for a loan for whatever reason.
Sure.
It could be that you didn't have a job for a while, you don't qualify for whatever reason. It could be that you are overburdened with debt and nobody will lend you any money, you know. So it is very important, it's very important to plan. You look on what your priorities are.
Yeah.
And sometimes if we don't look on the whole picture, we kind of focus on one, you know, the one that is probably most, you know, that you enjoy the most. Maybe you have, like Christmas has just gone. Maybe you had focused only on Christmas and you had forgotten that there are other things that are important.
Yeah.
So at the beginning of the year, it's good to sit down and figure out what your priorities are.
Yeah.
And for some people, some priorities might be getting their children back to school. They know they have to plan for that. Getting out of debt. The vacation, you know. Some people need to get their own home.
Yeah.
Some people need their own education.
Yes.
You know, getting education. Some people might be, you really need a means of transportation for your family.
Yeah.
The last two are most important, I think.
I was gonna say that, yeah, retirement planning. Yeah.
And emergency fund.
At what age did you start your retirement planning?
Yeah.
Ooh, no. No, for everybody. If you haven't started before, the earlier you start, the quicker. The better, sorry. The earlier you start putting aside money for retirement, you know, the better it is for you. I have this example that I use. If you save $200 per month starting at age 18 and you stop at age 35 and you don't save anything again, you just save that, you don't take anything out and you earn interest on it. Versus the person who starts saving at age 35, I think. Yeah, 35. And who is better off at age 65?
The one who stopped at 35?
The one who started at 18.
Oh.
Because at age 35, they have this lump sum of money that is earning interest on top of interest on top of interest. The one who started at age 35, at age 65, even though they've saved for 30 years, they won't be as good, you know, as better off as the person who started early.
And the value of the money changes too.
Exactly. Yeah. So not considering the fact that interest rate might rise or fall, you're just, you know, all of those things you take for granted. The point is, it's better for you to start early. Yeah. When you start early, you could put aside a smaller amount. When you start late, and you figure out how much you need to retire on, you will have to, I don't know, you'll be older at the time, you'll have to try, maybe you'll be making more money, yes, but you'll have to really dig down deep and put aside more money. So the earlier start, the better. For retirement, the earlier you start to put some money away, the better.
And you know, retirement, like, I don't even think about that yet.
Yeah.
And I probably should.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's something as simple as just saving $200 if you can.
If you can, 100 if you can, just put it away. This is for my retirement, you know. That helps because at retirement, depending on what age you retire, there are certain things that are available to you as well. So you have Social Security. Depending on where you work, you might have a pension.
I was going to ask that. If you do have a pension plan, should you still be saving for retirement?
Well, you need to figure out how much you will need at retirement.
Yeah.
And that is easy enough to do. You just sit down with pen and paper and figure out, okay, if I want to retire at 65, what will I need to spend?
Yeah.
Will I still have a mortgage? I hope not. You know, I will have to probably pay house insurance, property taxes. What will I need to spend monthly for the utilities and so on? You figure it out. It won't be perfect because nobody knows.
Yeah.
You probably have to add in medical bills. No, depending on your age, you might not have insurance. Yeah. So you have to add in those things and just put it down and you get a rough figure as to what you will need at retirement.
Yeah.
And then you look at what will I be getting? Will I be getting pension? How much that will be? And that you could figure that out. If you work with the government, you have an idea of what it will be.
Yeah.
Will you be getting Social Security? Okay, so you add those two. How much is short for the month? Then I need my savings and my investment has to make up the difference. So sometimes it is very daunting when you look on how interest rate is low and so on. That's why it's best to just start it as early as possible.
And you know, I find that people really we don't think about how much life expectancy has changed. So if you retire at 65 or even 55 or 60, you're looking at possibly 2 decades of
having to find income for you to live. And some things go up, some things will be higher. You know, the cost of something will be higher for you. You'll have to spend more on certain things when you retire. You'll be at home.
Predictably have bigger medical bills as well.
For some people, you know. So even that you need to take into consideration right now. Take care of your health so that you don't get caught by some of these things that debilitate us, you know, as we get older. And I'm sure the doctor will talk about that when he comes in, you know.
So
and then of course
retirement fund, emergency fund.
So let's talk about emergency fund a little bit.
Yes.
Because sometimes we don't pay attention to that. And what the professionals say is that you should have about 6 months of income in your emergency fund. And for some people that is not even possible.
Every time I hear it, it sounds like so much.
It is so much. And the idea of an emergency fund is that you have money to take care of you in the event you don't have a job anymore. And the length of time it takes for you to get a job, that is what it is saying. That you have some money to take care of your responsibilities during that time when you don't have a job. So for some people, if you would get, you know, your skills are such that you would be able to get a job as quickly as possible, then your emergency fund might be a little lower than the other person who might, you know, and I mean,
you just don't know.
You just don't know. You just don't know. So, and we know that things happen, you know. We spoke about people get ill, you get fired, you know, other emergencies, hurricanes.
I mean, if you don't have health insurance and you have one terrible bout of sickness, that's a lot to,
So emergency fund is important. Whatever you figure it out for your own self, depending on, you know, what your situation is. If you have people more people who are dependent on you, you have young children, you have older persons and so on, you might need a little bit more in your emergency fund than the other person, you know, so.
So now you make a plan. How do you then ensure that you stick to that plan as opposed to just starting off one month and then...
I know.
Like but I really need that purse.
You know.
I really need that purse.
Yeah, that is the most difficult part, I think. Where you're sticking to the plan. And keeping it in sight is important. So that because sometimes you really do forget. I always say write it down so that you could, you know, look at it. Because sometimes you have to reassess it as well. You know, it's not, you know, keeping your family involved is good too, because I mean, they'll be part of the process. You know, I always use the example that when we were growing up, we didn't have allowances. What was that? You know, but nowadays children have allowances. You know, you have to spend so much more now. So if they're a part of the process, you know, they will understand and they will be able to make the sacrifices. At the end of the day, it's a sacrifice.
And they have to understand that perhaps there's a limit as to what you can spend.
Exactly.
Now, for some people, try as they might, they just can't get the budget to work with the salary they're making. What can they do?
Well, you first of all, you have to tweak what you're making because that is your reality. You know, if you're only making a certain amount,
so if I'm making $1,200 a month
for the month, that means that you shouldn't be spending more than that because you'll be getting into trouble, and you can't purchase these high-end things that probably your friend can purchase. So it's really looking on you and seeing what your limitations are, what your constraints are, what your income is. And working within that. But there are some things that you could do.
I was going to say, you always talk about reducing your expenses. So if your budget is overextended, then it's time to cut back on some things.
It's time to cut back. And you could look on what the big expenses are. For a lot of people, it is food. You know, we buy food a lot instead of at home cooking and so on. So look on the big expenses and see how you could tweak those. So food is a good one to start with. See how you could tweak that.
I always use the example of buying breakfast and lunch. So if you spend $5 on breakfast, $10 on lunch, that's $15 a day. And that's, well, I can't do math that quickly in my head.
15
but
times 5, that's 75.
Yeah.
Times 4, that is $150 for the month.
That's it.
By just buying food every day. And then you compare that to what it would cost if I brought breakfast from home, if I bring my own lunch. And that's not to say that you won't purchase sometimes, because life happens, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, on the math of it, you will see that you do spend a lot on food if you allow yourself.
Yeah.
And especially when you think that, but I don't have an emergency fund. You know, if something happens to my child, or if something happens to my mother, something happens to me, I don't have this extra money to take care of it right away. So that could give you a little, you know, motivation to rethink and plan so that you could put aside. And one of the things we always talk about too is putting aside money separate from where you usually do your operating.
Of course,
you know.
And then you go to the ATM and
yes. So put it aside so that you know that is your weakness. You put it somewhere separate where it's not so easy to get. And you separate your finances so that you're not tempted to take, you know, what you don't, what you shouldn't be taking.
And this very difficult one that you speak about, saving your bonus.
Saving your, why spend
Isn't
all?
that supposed to buy a Christmas gift?
Well, some of it. Save some of it, you know. Save some of your bonus. Nothing wrong with, you know, save some of your bonus.
Okay.
If you get any windfall for whatever reason, you save some of it. Don't spend all. You know, don't spend all.
As tempting as it might
as
seem.
tempting as it might be. Again, when you look on all the important things that you have to take care of, you know, in the coming year, that again can motivate you to don't spend all the bonus.
Or if you got perhaps extra overtime for the month,
Overtime,
that's one that you could use, right?
Yes. If you have a hobby that you earn income from, you could decide to put that aside for your particular whatever goal you have. You could even start something that will earn income. You know, if you have a particular skill that earns income. Some people bake cake. Some people do nails, hair. You know, things like that. You work on that to put aside that money for that special purpose that you have. The truth of the matter, too, one other reason why it is important to plan is that your monthly income will not be sufficient to take care of all the things that you need. So, for example, if you only left your Christmas shopping to your December pay, you might run into trouble because you know you
can't make that work.
You can't make that work. So it's good to put aside.
Yeah.
And even if your planning means that you will have to borrow, but you consciously do it with knowing that you will repay. Yeah. You are able to repay. You can repay. Yeah. And it will be for a time. It will help you to move forward. You know. So even if it means that you have to borrow, planning will help you to identify that as well. Because at the end of the day, you want to make sure that when you borrow, that you can pay back. You know.
Now, I think one of the main perceptions people have about budgeting is that it just sucks the fun out of everything. You know, all your money goes towards paying your bills, saving, paying whatever loans you may have. Emergency, retirement, and that's just working for living in the future.
I know, but it is a reality. Yeah. I would say, well, suck it up. You know, suck it up and
that's
get it done.
Adulting, yes.
Yes, this is life. You know, this is life. Yeah, it is
My
important.
nephew had a Christmas job. I told him that. I said, this is life.
Yes.
You know, enjoy school for now.
Yes.
This is life.
Yes.
But you also advocate for some entertainment
Oh,
fund.
definitely.
Yeah.
Putting aside for entertainment.
Yeah.
And of course, recognizing that shouldn't take most of the budget, right? Yeah, so it is important to put aside for the fun things, you know, for the entertainment, for the vacation, for the treats, the occasional treats, for going out and having fun and so on. So you plan for that as well. Yeah. But you don't forget, the important thing is that you don't forget the important things, you know, because those are the things that will get you through. Planning now will help you to get a better retirement. Yeah. Planning now will allow you to not have headache when an emergency comes along. Yeah. You know, so that is.
It all sounds so overwhelming, though.
It is.
You know,
it
like
is.
retirement, You know, and then just trying to make ends meet every month. It's like, well, where will I find money to save?
Yes. So we talked about increasing your income. And people have skills, people have talent. Put it to work while you can, while you're still young. And you have the energy to do extra things, right? So put those to work. There's no law against earning income outside of your salary. You know, while you can, while you have the skills, you do that.
You still have to file the income taxes, but
yes, make sure you do so that you don't. And of course, cutting your expenses, looking at the picture and cutting your expenses.
And we've talked about perhaps using less electricity at home.
Yes, things like that.
Down, conserving water, which is also great for the environment.
Yes. We spoke about cutting back on the food bill. Because, you know, we have a lot of wastage. You know, a lot of wastage. We buy vegetables because we know it's good for us, but then we leave it to spoil in the refrigerator, you know. You know. Sometimes we buy in bulk because we feel it's cheaper, but then the things spoil.
Look, it's a big bunch of cilantro, but I need this much.
Yes, you know. So it is really paying attention. And if you take it a step at a time, it really won't be as overwhelming as you thought. You know, take it a step at a time.
I know you don't have it as a part of your presentation today, but I did want to talk about worthwhile investments. And we spoke about health earlier, not investments for making money, but whether you should spend your money on things like health insurance, whether you should venture into a student loan versus trying to work and pay as you go. What are some of your perspectives on these?
For health insurance, I think that's another thing that the sooner you get it, the better. Because as you get older, your health insurance, it's going to be more costly. So if you could get one now, when you're younger, that's better. If you could get a group insurance as well, if you're working and there's a group insurance, it is cheaper than if you get a personal one. Even though the personal one is important too, but having the group insurance at your work, even if you have to pay part of it, some people, because they have to pay part of it, they don't take it. If your employer is paying a substantial amount of it, that is an income, for you. Take those things. If they're putting aside savings for you, and you just have to put some, you take those opportunities, and that will help you as well. So insurance, I think, health insurance.
It's not a luxury.
It is not anymore, because health care could be very costly depending on, what kind of illness you have.
I've had friends who over Christmas had screening bills that went up to $500 at Christmas time. And they didn't have insurance. So, it shows just you need to know what's wrong with you to feel better. So you have to be able to have some way to cover those costs.
Health insurance is important.
What about other forms of insurance? Now there's like fire insurance, hurricane insurance, content insurance.
Those are some of the things that should go in that plan too.
Those are necessities.
Necessities. Because it really makes you feel more comfortable. Because as we said, emergencies happen. Even if there's a hurricane, you need to have your house insured so that you could get back
before the start of the hurricane.
Yes, because after a certain time they won't entertain an insurance. So vehicle insurance, that is by law. You have to get your vehicle insurance. So it is important that you get insurance. Your content, get those insured as well. Don't leave it to chance. That's my thing. Don't leave it to chance. And it means planning, because for most people, you don't have money lying around where, so it really, it means planning. With the student loan versus working
saving
and going to school,
or waiting,
sometimes the costs go up, so if you save, say, for 5 years to get your education, sometimes the costs go up. So it might be better for you to get a loan. But there are other things that you could look on too. See if you could get scholarships, grants, things like that. Because a young person with a big student loan, sometimes that really ties them down. Sometimes the parents do it, and so on. But I would say look to see if you could find some kind of assistance on first.
Before making that
before,
I'll give the example. I know in a lot of the financial conversations in the United States, they talk about how burdened adults are, young adults are, with student loans. And some are simply not making enough to be able to cover it. So they're now seeing where less people are venturing into taking out those loans. So it still is a worthwhile investment, but manage it properly.
Manage it properly, and you know, get as much assistance as possible. And here at home, you know, I always say that if somebody really wants an education, they can get it because you have online now. You know, there are ways.
Some schools offer payment plans too.
They have payment plans. You could work while you go to school. You drag it out for a longer period, but you know, it is just identifying what your priority is. And making the plans for it. But getting an education is important.
That is a priority.
That is important.
What about some of the other things that perhaps people neglect to invest in early?
Well, insurance is one. You know, sometimes they don't, and then when they're older and then they're ill, they start thinking about insurance. So that is something that you have to pay attention to. Getting your own home is a good investment. I think that the price go up every year, you know. So look on your situation and see if that is something that should be on your list, and start that as early as possible. You know, investing in education, you know, that is good. So sometimes we get caught up in just the day-to-day, and we forget the important things.
The long term.
The long-term things.
And you can even do quick courses to be able to gain a skill to make extra money.
Oh yes. Oh yes. There are several of those.
I know the many online.
Online. I tell you, Google should be your best friend, right? You could actually learn to do things. If you pay attention, and yes, on YouTube and things like that, you know, some people have the innate ability already, and they just need something, you know, a little course here or there, a little guidance to make it perfect. And you could do that and get started on things, you know. So there's a lot of opportunities. And talking about a budget too. Online, you have many.
And you know there are apps now that help you track your spending.
You could.
That helps me.
They have many now. You don't even have to write it down on paper. If you don't want to. Yes, you just find the app and it helps you to keep on track.
And save.
Oh, you can't get away from that. You know. The money that you make now, you will need it now, but you will need it tomorrow, next month, next year, next 10 years from now, next 20 years from now. So don't spend it all.
So you advocate for 10% of your
income? At least. I should have put at least there. And don't be dismayed if you can't come up with a 10%. Start with what you have.
Start with 5 and move up.
And move up. Work on moving it up. And again, the earlier you start, the better. Right? Make sure you have an emergency fund because things happen. We know things happen.
I love your last point.
Oh yeah. Help somebody that is less fortunate than you.
It puts things in perspective.
It does. It does.
That you can still make enough to help another person.
Exactly.
And what about, you know, I always hear when people put aside their savings, they tap into it every minute. Like, what are worthwhile reasons? You usually advocate for savings, an emergency savings, and a separate. We're talking 3 different savings here. So you don't have to go into that savings for emergencies.
Well, but life happens, right? So what's the sense you're ill, or your child is ill, and you have your retirement savings there, and you're not taking care of this matter. So something.
Be flexible.
You have to be flexible and get back on track as soon as you can. And money isn't everything. You know, you invest in other things too. Your friendships, you know, your time that you spend with your loved ones. So it is just a matter of putting things in perspective, knowing what you want, and working, you know, on a regular basis to achieving that. It takes time, and you know, it takes some effort, but the results would put you in a good position, you know.
So what is one thing we can all change today that is going to help us off better in the future financially?
One thing. be aware. Be aware of your finances. Some people don't know how much they make. They don't know how much they spend. So be more aware. We use the example of food. What are you spending on food? You know, can you tweak that a little bit so that you have more finances to do some important things? So just be more aware of your finances. Yeah.
All right. There we go. It wasn't so hard to listen to.
It is fun.
Yes, yes, I always say.
Once you get the ball rolling.
Once you get the ball rolling.
These are the math classes we need in schools. Yes. I'm over algebra. Bring on the budgeting.
I agree.
You know, this is, we know how hard it is for people when they can't meet necessary expenses.
Yes.
And it is, if you're a parent, you know, the struggle that you feel, the burden that you feel, the stress that you feel. Sometimes it physically makes them sick. And so whatever we can do to get ourselves back on the right track, we need to start doing it today. All right, thank you so much, Corine. We appreciate it.
My pleasure.
All right, we're going to go ahead and take a break now. And if you need something new for the new year, something that you can develop as a hobby, perhaps have some downtime, it may be just playing a musical instrument. So we're going to have musician Giselle O'Brien with us talking to us about how you can learn to play that new instrument. So stay tuned.